Hello and welcome back. This is Military Illumination and I'm your host Gary. And today what we're going to be talking about is retirement part 5, invest in yourself. This is alternative to military retirement per se. Today we're going to turn on the lights to options you have when you're thinking about military retirement, and maybe what can you do for yourself if you're in. Okay? It's all about not what's in the best interest of the military, but what's your best interest. Sometimes what we talk about here is maybe not even looking at the military as an option and looking at the retirement as an option, but developing a plan of action for yourself that's going to give you the income you need at that time and that within a 20-year mark. And it's an option. It's possible. But if you're in the military and you decide, this is a lot really geared toward people who are in the military or who know someone who's in the military, is to invest in yourself while you're in. So let's turn the lights on and let's look at what you can do. First of all, the military, it's a very stressful lifestyle, especially depending on what you do. It's hard on the family. High incident rates of domestic violence, a high incident rate of sexual assaults, a high incident rate of suicides, high rate of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse. All of these things are something they don't share with the public, or even the person who's coming in. I mean, what would happen if a recruiter sat down with a high school student, right, and told him all these things? This is a podcast for those people This is a podcast for high school students who are considering a military career, or their family or friends who would like to support them in their decision and perhaps provide them with an alternative options. But they want them to look at everything dispassionately to determine whether or not it's the best fit for them. Because we believe that with the right information, the decisions you make will be in line with what you want to do. And knowing all this, a person still wants to enlist, go for it. At least you know what you were warned, so that when it happens, you don't take it hard. So let's go ahead and turn the lights on, and let's just talk about military retirement and your options. You're in the military. The money's going to come freely. It's going to be there every month, right? You're going to get opportunity to make extra money on top of that, right? And you know it's guaranteed. It's one of the easiest. The higher you go, the easier it is to secure loans, to get cars, whatever, because it's guaranteed. It's a government paycheck, right? And if you run out of food and you're single, just go back and live in the barracks, right? You don't have to worry about anything. The military take care of everything. They give you a place to sleep, food to eat. It's just, what can we say? With that being said, my advice to anyone would be, don't spend over your limit. Meaning that if your base pay and the things they give to you, like clothing allowance and housing, or whatever they get to you on a regular basis, live on that. If you get deployed and there's extra money in for the combat zone, there's extra money that's coming your way, there's a bonus, take that money and put it away. Invest it. Don't spend it. Don't buy bigger, better cars, bigger, better houses. Live within your means. Why? Because when you do that, when time for your reenlistment comes up, you have options, right? You have money set aside that will sustain you for a period of time. And that's the main reason why people reenlist, is that they don't have anything to sustain them, right? They haven't been saving. So on your first tour of duty, don't overspend your limit, your pay limit. Any extra pay you get, it goes into your retirement pot. Whether you talk with somebody out there who can help you set up a retirement plan, and that's where it goes. Live within your means. If a spouse works, learn to live within the means of your salary, because in the end, when that salary goes away, the only thing you're gonna have is a spouse salary for a period of time. Inflation will eat that up. It's also going to give you some choices when you come for reenlistment if you don't decide to retire, or if for something happens and you run into the politics of the military and you can't retire, you have a nest egg. You're not relying on the military. Okay? Remember, the military is what's in the best interest of them, not you. Work your debts down to where by the time you're retired, you won't have any debts. That includes you buy a house, anything, rent some properties. I don't know, but pay down your debts. Start a second career, a side hustle that can come into something bigger and better when you get out. Maybe you got a skill set that you can earn extra money on the side with, right? Make that part of your retirement plan. Get a side hustle. Of course, you got to get permission from the military, but what the military don't know won't hurt them. If it's your side hustle where whatever you're doing is illegal, ethical, and not good stuff here. So that way, when it comes down to your reenlistment section, you're gonna have options. It's all about having options. It really is all about having options. Don't count on the military or the government. Do not count on them, their help. Remember, when your retirement is 50% of your base pay, and that's gonna be taxed, and then that's gonna pull some money out for medical and dental insurance. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. The government does not have your best interest at heart. You're throwaway as you're military. I hate to say that, but that's all you are, and you're in the military. They've gotten you and they've used you. They have no more use for you. They discard you. If this wasn't the case, then they wouldn't have the Ferris Doctrine. They wouldn't have. They would not have the things they have in place to protect the government and the agencies. Plan for it. Think about what would you do if you couldn't retire. If something happened, like my friend, and you got booted out, you got taken away from you the last hour. What else can you do? Having a plan helps things go a lot more smoother for you mentally if something does happen. Because most of the issues, I believe, comes down to survival. If you've been living paycheck to paycheck and the only thing you knew was the military, and that was snatched from you without a reason, you're gonna be devastated. A person's gonna be devastated. Now you add kids to that mix, you add family to that mix, you have a relationship with the mix, the stress that is gonna cause on that family, right? So think about your life after, if you couldn't retire, even now if you're in. But mostly if you're thinking about coming in the military, think about what you could do if you couldn't get the education, if you couldn't get the things, the benefits they have. What will you do? That's going to turn you to other options that maybe you have not thought about, to other directions. And that's what we're trying to do, is get you to look outside the box. Look at other things other than the military, what they have in front of you that lure. Once you do that, you take a step backwards, you're going to start finding other opportunities that's going to be there waiting for you that's much better than the military. The military recruitment system looks good on the outside. They're always going to give you what you want. They're going to smile. They're going to make you feel like your family. The recruiters are just going to, I would say, how can I say that? They're going to put you on a pedestal and treat you like you are the king and queen. Okay? That's until you're in. Okay? That happened to me. I'm going to digress real fast. I was like my recruiter, and I was really attached to him. He's a really good guy, I finished basic training and AIT, and I came home to see him, and he well, what do you want? He dismissed me. He didn't need me no more. It was weird feeling. So, if you're not able to perform your job because of injury sustained in the military, or because something else outside of your control, the military has no more use for you, and they will try to get rid of you. It doesn't matter, if you're injured on a combat situation. If you're no longer used to the military, you're a dead weight, per se. You're a liability. They cannot carry you. And they'll use the same thing against you to get you out of the military without benefits. Look after yourself. The point in time is that you got to look after what's best for you. Even before you enlist in the military, what are you trying to achieve, and what are some of the best options for you to do that? Are there other ways of getting what you want without the military, right? And a lot of times, people run to the military because their family's kicking. They've got issues with their family, and they have no place else to go, or they have a relationship with their parents that they just so toxic, right? And that nothing else to do. So military's an option. I can say I was gonna in that situation. I didn't look at all my options. All I knew was that I keep coming back to myself was that the military, I would have a place to stay, I would have monthly income, and I'd be able to go to school at night. So I thought, that's why. That's all I wanted to do was to go to school. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I was thinking the military was going to be what I needed, and because why? Because my brothers they all had office jobs. They all had office jobs with basically a daily schedule. Of course, in my infinite wisdom, I told my recruiter what I wanted, trying to do, what I wanted, and he gave me the opposite. And he must have been laughing as he put me into it. I was I was the only one out of my brothers who was tactical, I guess you would say. Wasted my time. I cried when I realized the mistake I made. That was 6 months. That was basically 3 months into my permanent party duty station. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't asking enough questions. I was trusting. And to an extent, I still trust a lot of people these days, right? And it hasn't got me anywhere. But you're a high school student, right? Maybe you're a year or two out, you're going to community college, and you're thinking your way out as the military. There's options. There's a lot of people who survive civilian life, right? Who work extra hard, work extra jobs, right? To make it happen. And a lot of times what people look at is the pay. It's guaranteed pay. It's guaranteed pay. Every month you get paid, right? No problem. Secure. But if you take that pay, you divide it. Well, you're thinking that whatever they say is the pay is going to be an 8-hour window, like we get like a civilian. Remember, once again, I'm telling you, you can't mix apples and oranges. Military is 180 degrees different from civilian. If you're talking about pay, you're talking about 8 hours, an 8-hour day, or maybe a 10-hour day. No, your salary with the military. That basically means that you are on the clock all the time. You're 24/7. They can call you at any time. You can go and alert at any time. When you're deployed, you're on the clock all the day long. Yeah, you may be resting, but you are on the clock. When you're on a field exercise where you can't go home, you're on the clock. You may be in your bunk, in your tent, whatever, sleeping, but you're on the clock. So you take the income that the military gives you. Let's just say you start out as a private, right? Let's just say it's I don't know how much it is, but let's just say it's $2,000 a month. Now you take that $2,000 a month and you divide that by 8. You divide that by what? 40 hour work week, 40 times 120. So let's just go. That's gonna go by 4. That's kind of less than $500 a month, a week. Okay. Now that's a regular 40-hour work week, 5 days a week, right? In the military, you take that number and you divide that by 7. Well, let's just say 4, so it's going 7 days a week. So you divide 500, divide that by 7. Okay, so 500. I'm just kind of writing this down here. We're looking at 5 days a week. That's gonna be about $100 a day. But since you're in the military, you're gonna take that $500. You can divide that by 7. Because technically, you're on the clock 7 days a week, okay? Whether you're not, it's just, especially if you're deployed or you're on the exercise. So that $7 a week, that $50 is going to go down to, let's say, $71 an hour, $71 a day, okay? And that's not saying we're going to go 12 hours a day. If you made it 12 hours a day, it would go. So basically, you're making $70 a day. Think about that. $70 a day. That is below minimum wage. And it doesn't get better. It doesn't matter how high you go. It doesn't matter whether your rank it is. You're still making at or below minimum wage. When you factor in the length of time you're working, the hours you're working, and the time you're on the clock. So I'm kind of digressing here. But when you're talking about thinking about investing in yourself, isn't your time more valuable than $70 a day? But people don't see that. You know, they see that you go in, you get a place to stay, you get a barracks, right? Which they can come through and they can check you. It's like being in prison, basically. They can go through your stuff whenever they want to. Okay, and you're in a room with 2 or 3 other people, right? And then finally, what you're gonna do is, you get free meals, right? But on their schedule. Don't get hungry after the mess hall closes. So, anyways, as you're looking at that, invest in yourself. My story is probably if I follow all these things here, I don't know. It's when you're in, the money comes freely, and I don't know. I wasn't good with money anyways, but you just think about that. I mean, the military retirement. You always be thinking about the alternatives. What if you're not going to be able to retire? What if it's taken away from you? 20 years, that's several re-enlistments, right? What options do you have at time of re-enlist? Right? Always be prepared. Remember, the military, they don't have to watch out after you. They're going to do what's in the best interest of the military. And it's up to you to take care of yourself, right? And that's looking at your time, how valuable it is. That's looking at your future and what you want to accomplish, what the income you want to have, right? And you know what your net worth is. You look at it. What's your base pay going to be like if you got that promotion? Is there something that you want to be able to deal with? Do that before you go in. Chances are it will, at least if you look at things disproportionately, if you look at things from that perspective, sometimes you'll make the right decision based on what you're trying to achieve, not based on perceived value the military is trying to give. Anyways, I'm going to turn the lights off on that, and I'll talk to you soon. Next time I turn the lights on, it's going to be episode 18, the medical, dental, and life insurance benefits. You know what's coming. It's not what it seems. It's not as good as they say it is, right? And I already talked about it a little bit more. I already talked about it a little bit already. But we'll jump into maybe a 10-minute podcast or so. Have a good day. You guys hungry?